Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to my shop. I believe that if you'll spend a few minutes with me today, together we can become better at creating things with our mind and making things with our hands. Welcome back to the shop. I'm Tim. Today we're going to learn all about the surface planer and how to operate it safely as part of the woodworking process. You'll notice that we've got our little object piece here, our nice piece of oak. We've already taken it through the jointer to get a flat surface on one face. We've set it up on the jointer again and we've done a flat surface on an edge. Now we want to take it down to a certain thickness and we want to have our rough sawed edge here be just as flat as our opposite side and perfectly parallel to it. So we're going to do that with the surface planer. What it has is a head that's got the knife in it, so you can go ahead and cut this surface down. We'll put our primary reference, the portion that we've already run on the jointer, we're going to set that down on our deck. We're going to run it through our planer and get it nice and smooth and the thickness that we want. To better illustrate that, to make it a little easier for you to see, I'm going to put marks all the way across our board so you can see what we've taken off in the process. Now our planer has an infeed roller here that drives our material through our planer. It has an outfeed roller on the back side that's going to push it out once it's done cutting. Obviously the cutter head runs in the middle. It's coming down onto our piece like this and it's going to pull that material off as we go through. The way I like to start out, I like to open up the machine such that I've got room to slide this back and forth through here to get a reference on it. Some people like to measure it for thickness and go by a gauge that's on the typical machines. I don't really like that. I'd rather start the machine up and then adjust our cutter head to where the piece is to get a good start on it. Now we're going to start up our dust collector because it's going to extract all the material that we've just cut off of our piece. Here we go. Now, we've got our board run through once, it's caught half of it. We're going to feed it back through at the same cutting dimension to finish up the first part of our cut. So it's been through once. As you can see, it's not perfectly flat. It's a little tapered down to the one side. So we're going to run it through a number of times to get it down to our desired thickness. The way we're going to do that is I'm going to adjust my cutter height by about half a turn. And that normally does pretty good on most machines and all. We'll run it through until we get it perfectly flat. Now you'll see I've got this down to perfectly flat and parallel surfaces, and you saw me flip it from one cut to the next. I'm trying to take even amounts off of both sides to help prevent it from warping and cupping. And you'll also notice that if you don't turn your dust collector on in the process, now you get to sweep it all up off the floor. Much better to walk over and turn the dust collector on. A couple things to be mindful of here is you always want to be off to the side of your machine and be feeding your material through. This has auto feed rollers, it'll run it through. I don't want to be standing back here because if for some reason the tool should catch the wood and throw it out of the machine, I don't want to be there. Always try to go with the grain as much as you can. I can see that my grain on this piece is kind of coming out this direction, so I'm going to want to feed it with that so that when I'm cutting essentially downhill. If you go against the grain, you have the opportunity for tear out and things like that that'll affect your surface in a way that you really don't like. A couple things you want to keep in mind is the length of your piece is really important in that you want it to span the length of your cutter head, because there are two rollers, one going in, one going out. If it falls between those two and is not supported, the cutter head can actually throw it out of the machine for you. It can damage your cutter head. It can cause a hazard of something being kicked back out of the machine. So that's what you can do with an electric surface planer. The way they used to do it, right here, Stanley No. 7 joiner plane. Any antique store that you walk into has got furniture that might be 150, 200 years old, and it's still just as flat as can be, as flat as it was the day it was made. It was made with one of these. Good old everyday Stanley No. 7 joiner plane. Fantastic way to do it. Sometimes I prefer to flatten and joint my boards with this. It takes a little bit more elbow grease, but there's a whole lot of satisfaction in doing that. So as with anything, the tools that you saw in our shop today are available on a link down below. Thank you for spending time with me today here in the shop. I look forward to seeing you next time.